Okay, we're good to go. So welcome everybody. Just want to say thank you so much for hopping on board, joining me today. I have so much I want to cover and I'm going to dive in as deeply as I can on this topic. Overthinking, undercharging, a hot topic. And it's something that most people just aren't talking about. But I really want to touch on the reasons why you might be earning half of what you're worth. So let me get started with the slides. Oh, okay, great. So one of the things that I see with entrepreneurs is many of you are doing something that feels purposeful. You absolutely love what you're doing. It's something that has a lot of meaning to you. And it's important to be able to bring money into your business, because if you don't have cash flow, then you actually have a hobby as opposed to a business. You need to have that money, cash flow, clients, customers in order to remain in business. But one of the things that I see so often, especially when you're doing work that's personally deeply meaningful to you, is you don't happen to see the value of your work, where your true value and worth is. As a result of it, you end up settling for less. And it just is one of the things I've seen over and over and over again, where there are too many entrepreneurs who are doing something that's making a huge difference for their clients. And for whatever reasons, they are not able to have a prosperous business. They still struggle. They're not making as much money as they thought they ought to be by this time. They haven't figured out how to really crack that code. So if you are someone who you absolutely know your rates are too low, you've been thinking about raising them, but you're just not really sure how to do that. So you continue to want to raise your rates, but not really taking that next step yet, then you're absolutely in the right place. Maybe you have been negotiating your fees and you feel like you have to justify them, or you're writing things off because there's some pushback. Then there's some things that are going to be helpful for you too. And if you know that you would like to make more money, but this isn't really the reason why you're doing the work that you do, you're doing it more because you want to help people, then absolutely you're in the right place as well. This is going to be geared exactly for you. One of the things that I have seen, and maybe you've noticed it too, is anything you want, it's available on the internet. All you need to do is figure out how to do the right search, and you can access almost anything you need in order to be able to grow your business, solve a problem, maybe gain more insight on a particular thing that you're focusing on. And because of that, what I see is, okay, you have the steps, they hand it to you. And how come some entrepreneurs continue to struggle? Well, it's because once again, you're doing meaningful work and you might feel that there's a contrary belief going on, that you want to be able to serve more clients, be able to have more impact and influence with them. However, there's a downside to being too successful. Maybe that there's too much work involved, or you think that there is, you're going to be seen as greedy, or possibly that there's some feeling that if you got too busy, you would have to give up other things that are equally important to you. And as a result of that, you have all this information, but it gets shelved. You're not following through with it. You're not taking those next steps to really have a prosperous business that supports your lifestyle. Oops, other way. And a little bit about how I got into doing this. I have been a therapist helping people get out of their own way, get unstuck in some capacity since 1982. My husband, Steve, and I have been working side by side since that time, and we had a business that we bought together in 1997, a counseling agency where we had up to 11 employees. I was the biggest income producer in the business, but after about 12 years of working side by side with Steve, I was experiencing burnout. And the burnout was happening not because of my clients. I absolutely loved my clients. The burnout was happening because I had one of those businesses that was able to meet its current demands of payroll and paying bills and keeping the doors open. But there wasn't a lot of extra cash in the business. There was ebbs and flows. But it wasn't just about the cash flow, it was about the time. I sacrificed a lot, and so did my family. Being a therapist in our counseling agency meant I was working in the evenings, doing group therapy sessions, working with clients that had day jobs. And then on the weekends, I was catching up with paperwork or getting ready for a compliance audit with a health insurance company in order to keep our accreditation and certifications current. As a result of that, there are so many things that I missed as far as family time goes. I feel that not only did I pay the price, but so did my family members as well, including my husband, Steve, because there's some things that we could have done together and I couldn't step away, or at least that's what I thought. So I started looking for that next best move. And that's when I became aware of coaching and started moving in that direction, because where therapy had me focusing on helping people reach their full potential was all about the problem. And coaching was really about helping people achieve the potential of what they really wanted for themselves. And that was much more wired for who I am, because I absolutely love moving forward as opposed to what's holding you back. The other thing that I found as I was moving into this coaching was that I'm really, really good at what I do. And I believe that every single one of you here are fantastic at that thing that you do, that service that you offer. However, my education never prepared me to be an entrepreneur. They prepared me to work for somebody else as an employee. Therefore, I didn't know how to sell or anything about marketing. And that's what I had to really figure out is, how do you enroll clients? How do you network? How do you do that sales thing in a way that felt genuine and authentic for me? Because like so many of you, I'm sure that you have the salesy experience and you never, ever, ever want to be that part. It's really uncomfortable. Plus, it's easier to sell somebody else's stuff than it is to sell yourself or your own business. So I really had to figure out how to crack the code on my pricing and being able to have those enrolling conversations. And that's really got me to what we're talking about today. As a result of it, these are some of the affiliations that I've had or stages that I've spoken on. And it has really been a journey of growing within in order to have success in my business. There were so many things that I had to get out of my own way. And one of the first things was a fear of public speaking. I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. I like being in my office, rolling up my sleeves and doing the work. And the public part of it, the networking, wasn't really my strength. And I had to figure out how to be able to do that part of it in order to be able to connect with people, develop affiliate relationships, referral relationships, and connect with new clients. So fear of speaking was one of the things I had to get out of the way right out of the gate. I joined Toastmasters, I started going to networking events, but it absolutely made a difference. This is what we're going to cover today. 5 steps to get paid what you're worth, how to double your rates, and we're going to end with 3 steps to stop chasing money. I will give you absolutely all I can in the time we have together. If you're interested in knowing how to access more, talk further, I'll show you how to do that at the end as well. But let's go ahead and just dig into 5 steps to get paid what you're worth. What I really want to show you right out of the gate is that what you think your clients value and what they really value are 2 different things. Value is highly, highly subjective. What is valuable to one client might be different as far as what's valuable to your next one. And you have to really decipher what that thing is. An example is if you have been stranded in the desert for 3 days, it's the middle of the summer, the sun is beating relentlessly down on you, you haven't been able to find an oasis, and you're literally dying of thirst, and then someone magically appears with just a 8-ounce bottle of water, how much would you be willing to pay for that water? And if you want, go ahead and put in the chat. Would love to hear, how much would that bottle of water be worth to you? And we'd like to hear what you think. So you're in the desert, you're dying of thirst, and all of a sudden someone comes with a bottle of water. How much would you be willing to pay for that? Would it be $10, $100? Would it be $1,000? What would that be worth to you? And, oh, okay, Helena said $1,000. Absolutely, if you're dying from thirst, somebody would be willing to pay $1,000 for it. So realize that we're talking about maybe a Costco 8-ounce size bottle of water. But now that same bottle of water, if you are at a network meeting where there's waters on the table and you can buy a bottle of water, how much would that same exact bottle of water be worth to you then? Exactly, it's not going to be the same price. It might be that you won't even consider buying a bottle of water because there's pitchers of water there. Or maybe you only drink bottled water and you'll go ahead and pay $1 for it. But it doesn't change what that container of water is. What's changing is the perception. So what you want to tune into is, what is it that they want? They want to get rid of their thirst. What is it that they need? They need water to be able to quench that thirst and remain alive. And what do they desire? They strongly, strongly desire to get rid of discomfort and feel like they're dying of thirst. And those are three different things to recognize: is the wants, which is feeling that they lack something; the need, which is a basic core value or necessity; and the desires, which is a sweet spot of something that they would like to have, but they don't have it yet. And what I want to do now is really focus on, now that we know that value is subjective, what are some of those things that start to shift it? And these are the 5 steps that I look at in order to be able to start to move forward by focusing on value in your business as opposed to pricing it like everybody else does. And right off the bat, I want to say, school had it wrong. School teaches you to be good at every single subject, to be a generalist, to be able to get A's in everything. If you're not getting A's and B's, then you're getting questioned as to what's wrong with you. How can you weaken that area? You need to get some tutoring and strengthen that area. But that's not how the real world is set up. The real world is set up for this first step. And the first step is to focus on your strengths. What is it that you do better than everybody else? And that's what you really want to tune into, is your strengths. The other part about your strengths, and my clients affectionately call it their superpower, is that your strengths might be overlooked by you because they're easy. You could do it all day, every day. If you actually were doing this thing all day, every day, you'd have more energy at the end of the day than when you got started. You might even lose your sense of time because you just get thrown into this and you get fully absorbed. Therefore, knowing what your strengths are or what you really want to dive into and hone, that's absolutely where your value is. And it's one thing that actually will separate you from everybody else who offers a similar result or service. So figure out your strengths, tune those up, get even better with those. That will start to differentiate you from everybody else. After strengths, we want to go ahead and separate time from money. What that means is, if you are charging by the hour or charging by the session, then you're actually undervaluing what you have to offer. Charging by the hour or the session is a broken old model. It's similar to having a rotary dial-up phone. It's antiquated. It was developed in the 1800s by an attorney as a way to justify their fees. That's when they created the billable hour. However, when you're trading dollars for hours, then you're focusing on how much time something takes as opposed to your expertise and what you bring to the table. The other thing that happens when you're focusing on dollars for hours is, as you gain more expertise and you learn some things along the way, you're going to get faster, and technology helps to make you faster as well. And therefore, you actually will be charging less money for the same service as when you first started figuring it out and you didn't know as much. Therefore, you make less money in the long run than you did when you first started out because you're focusing on time as opposed to expertise. I will let you know that your clients, for the most part, do not really care how fast something takes or how long you're spending on it. Actually, they really would rather have it be faster. Think about this. When you need to get a signature from someone in the next city overnight and it has to be a handwritten signature, you're not going by the US Postal Service or snail mail. What you're doing is you're going to FedEx it overnight. You will probably pay 6 times as more to FedEx it overnight and back to you than going by traditional mail. That's because there's a value to having it done quickly as opposed to it being a longer drawn out process. The other thing is when you're charging by the hour is you're at a opposing desire from your client. You want it to some degree to be a long drawn out process because you're going to just make more money, whereas they want it to be done quickly. So you're at opposing ends of the table. Therefore, when we focus on you helping them get results, regardless of how much time it takes, and focusing your fees on results, it has you as an investment where you're teaming up with your client as opposed to a commodity where it's all about time. The other thing is when you're teaming up with them and you're focusing on results, they're more likely to reach out to you sooner. Whereas when you're focusing on time, they're going to think about it. They're going to try to fix it themselves. They'll probably make the problem even worse before they reach out to you. And it's going to cost them more money in the long run. So that's one of the reasons why you want to start to separate your fees from time. The third step is realizing success is messy. What that means is by the end of this call, if I ask you to double or even triple your rates, what are some of the thoughts that come up for you? And if you wanted to put them in the chat, would love to hear what comes up with you when I tell you, okay, by the end of this hour, double or triple your rates. I know that some of the things I hear is, I can't do that. Nobody else is charging that much money. Who do I think I am? I don't have enough credentials. There's resistance from clients. There's fear. There's fear of losing clients. What if somebody challenges me? So those are some of the things that come up, are all of those things. Another thing that came up in the chat is imposter syndrome. Janice said, I'll lose a client who likes me, who can't afford me. All of these things are true beliefs and things that go through our head that keep us from moving forward and being able to raise our rates. And I want to say that in order for you to be able to make that shift, sometimes you have to get out of your own way. Are there people who won't like what you have to offer? Absolutely. But if you're able to do it in a way that's systematic, that brings out the value, that your clients see that by continuing to work with you, they gain even more as a result of it, then there's not as much pushback as you think there is. So realize what some of those things are, and I will let you know every single one of those fears is probably an illusion, because statistics show that you can raise your rates by 10, 20, even 30%, and maybe you lose about 10% of those clients, and those were the ones that were the most price sensitive, or they were the ones that were the most, needed the most hand-holding and demanding from you, and sometimes they do you a favor by moving on. So you're not going to lose as many clients as you think you will. And you'll absolutely be making more money as well. So where are you holding yourself back, where you know that you are the bottleneck to your own business being more prosperous? Oops. Okay, the fourth step is recognizing that you want to stand out as the go-to expert. one of the things that separates experts from everybody else is they have a system. No matter what industry you're in, the people that are at the top of the scale, the ones that you admire and you look up to, they have a step-by-step system that they created that they take their clients through. And by knowing what your step-by-step process is for helping your clients get a result, influences everything about your business. It lets you be able to articulate it better when you go to network meetings and you have that 30 seconds explaining what you do. You can easily explain it there. It affects the copy that's on your website. It affects the marketing that you do because you know what your system is and you can really tune into that one thing, being highly, highly focused instead of all over the place. When you're talking with clients, you can talk about that process. And by being able to know what your system is, it then takes something that's very abstract with your clients and makes it very, very specific to where they can actually visualize what it would be like working with you every single step of the way and what results they can expect as they're moving through the steps with you. If you want to be one of the leaders rising up above everybody else that's offering that thing that you do, then figure out what the steps are, the processes that you take your clients through, as opposed to saying, I don't know, I just help you get results. This is one of those things that brings confidence and adds value to what you have to offer. And then the fifth step in the system is solving a need. When you know your ideal client so well, what keeps them up at night, what they need, how you are the unique person to solve that problem for them, then it's like a mating call. It's like you're talking their love language. So what you want to be able to figure out is what is that problem that they have and what is the solution that you have to offer? Because if you have a potential client that, let's say, has back pain. Well, if you have back pain, you can go to a chiropractor, you can go to a massage therapist, you can go to a medical doctor that's a back specialist, you can go to an acupuncturist, you can go to a weight loss clinic. You can solve your back pain in many, many different ways. However, if you know what their need is and how you solve it, and you are able to even articulate your system on how you take them through a process, then that gives them more confidence that you might be the solution that they've been searching for. It lets you stand out. It lets you to be the one that has the searchlight in the cave. All of a sudden you take this pitch black dark cave and you light it up for everybody so they can find their way back out of the cave. And I want that for you. Then think about who's your ideal client. What is that problem that they are searching for a solution and that you're uniquely qualified to solve? So those are some of the things that start to help you increase your rates and focus on the value as opposed to the time, and has you rise above the competition. With Justin, we met maybe about 4 years ago, and 2.5 years ago, he reached back out to me and said, I think I'm ready, let's have a conversation. We talked about what he wanted to do with his business, where he wanted it to go, some of the things that were happening right now. He was working really hard in his business. And when tax season came, he didn't have a personal life. His wife was really kind of like a tax day widow. He was working 70, 80 hours a week at the office. She was home with their 2 little kids. He never had, he wasn't able to help her. And he was missing out on that part of his life also. And by the end of tax season, he was totally burned out. He was really working hard for at least 60 to 75 days straight. So when we were looking at what he wanted with his business and how he wanted it to grow, one of the things that came up when we talked about taking that next step of working closely together was, I'm not sure that I can do this right now because I have an opportunity to buy my building that I'm in, and I would really love to do that, or I can work with you. And we talked about that because with most of you, probably the investment in working with you is the biggest obstacle for them actually stepping forward. We talked about the pros and the cons. We talked about the trade-offs. And one of the things that I was able to show Justin was that he was thinking either or. Either he could work with me or he could buy the building. I don't subscribe to that type of binary thinking of either or. Life is a zero-sum game. I look for the and how do you wed two things together so you can have both instead of having to compromise or sacrifice. And we talked about what it would look like to be able to work with me and be able to then make the money because we were shifting his whole business model in order to buy the building. Well, fortunately, he was open to that conversation and he jumped on board with me. He was able to buy the building within 8 months of us starting coaching together. Plus, as you can see, he paid down his credit card debt and he was home more. And because of that, it changed not just his work life. He added on some new employees. He was able to let go of some of the management and bring in an office manager for that. But it also affected his home life as well. He started taking more family vacations with his family, enjoying his 2 little kids and time with his wife in a way that he wasn't able to before. He could go to places like Costa Rica where he could just turn off his cell phone and be totally present for them. So what I want to say is that when you're looking at working with somebody or someone's looking at working with you, you want to make sure that they are seeing you as an investment where they're going to go ahead and gain more because they worked with you than if they chose not to. And let's go on now on how to double your rates. I've done some research and I found that up to 50% of entrepreneurs tend to go ahead and undercharge for their services. So what that means, what that means is that if you are charging by the hour, you are charging by the session, you're most likely not bringing in as much income as you could. And this isn't about being greedy or taking advantage of anybody. It's just that the way that you're pricing isn't really a win-win-win. And to recognize that, are you one of the 50%? So that means that at least half of the people on this call right now, if not more, are undercharging for their services. And what would you have to do to change that for yourself? So just wanted to give you that information out there. And part of that is because of this whole thing about niching down and generalist versus specialist. I want to go back to the back pain. If you had chronic back pain, you've been dealing with your back pain for years now, and you've tried so many things, and the next thing is really surgery. When you have that chronic back pain, are you going to go to a generalist or a specialist? I know for me, at that point, I would only be going to the specialist, the person who works with my particular back pain day in and day out. They have so much knowledge about it because that's all that they do. And if you decide that you're going to go to the specialist, are you going to go to the one that is the expert and known for being able to help people get rid of the back pain, that gets results and has a track record, or are you going to go to the one that has the lowest fees? Most likely you're going to the specialist that has the track record because you've already spent probably thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours trying to get it resolved and it hasn't been resolved yet. You're at this point of frustration where the last resort would be back surgery, and you just don't want that for yourself. So if you know that for yourself you would seek out a specialist, then it just makes me wonder, why do entrepreneurs and business owners avoid differentiating themselves by choosing a specialty? They are so afraid of, what if this one person over here, I could help them. And if I choose this specialty over there, they're not going to recognize that I can help them. However, if you actually decide to choose a specialty, there's two things to consider. One is you'll probably help so many more people because they'll recognize that you have that special thing that's going to help make a difference for them. You can solve their problems because you're doing it all day, every day. You have expertise. The other thing is that as you're gaining recognition and really building a reputation in that particular area, there's going to be other people on the periphery watching someone they know get results from working with you. And even though they're not in that particular niche, they're going to start to reach out to you anyway. Therefore, being a specialist doesn't mean that you have to only work in that one particular segment. It's more that you only have so much capacity to be able to get out there and let people know you exist. And it makes it easier. It actually gives you freedom to focus on one segment. However, if you're really good at what you do, people from other populations or areas of focus are going to reach out to you also because they want those results and that experience too. So think about what would make a difference for you. What would you have to let go of in order to be able to really specialize in something as opposed to being a generalist? And sometimes a specialist is working with a particular type of personality as opposed to in a particular industry. The next thing to look at is connecting with your value. As entrepreneurs, we so often undervalue what we have to offer. Once again, that's your superpower. It comes easy to you, so you might minimize it. You might write it off. You might think because it's so easy for you, it's easy for everybody. The things that are easiest for you are absolutely those things that have the most value. This is where you don't want to brag about what your superpower is because that's not very client attractive. However, you want to educate your clients, your network, your referral sources, your joint venture partners on your value and what you bring to the table and what differentiates you from everybody else. And to be able to really learn how to explain it in a way that's very, very client attractive. That pulls people in because you know what their exact problem is and you have a system that helps to solve that problem. So figure out what's your value. And if you know what your value is, put it in the chat. I would love to share what that superpower is, what that value is that you bring to the table. The next thing is about being the boss, and not in a bossy control freak type of way, but more coming from the place of a trusted advisor. So let's see what somebody's, oh, okay, so Rachel said that her superpower is writing. She can write all day, every day. And for her, she writes content for other people, so it lets them get their message out in a clear way that's well articulated, but it means that her clients are freed up to do that thing that they do. So absolutely, thanks so much for sharing that, Rachel. And if you have a superpower and you want to share it, please feel free to do that. But let's go to trusted advisor. Trusted advisor, it's not what you do, it's what you know. Now think about that. It's not what you do, it's what you know. Because when you look at other professionals in the same service category as you, to some degree, you all do the same thing. But it's your superpower. It's your system. It's how you help your clients benefit because they chose to sign on with you that makes the difference. And what is it that you know? I was talking with a client earlier today, and we were going through this exact thing because he wanted to differentiate himself from everybody else in his category even more. And one of the things that we saw that differentiated him from everybody else who did that similar service was that he becomes an ambassador for his clients. He does a work where you have to deal with the government and there's lots of bureaucratic red tape and hoops to jump through, and sometimes one bureaucratic department contradicts what another department is saying that you need. And it can be very, very confusing and costly and take up a lot of time for a client that's trying to navigate through the system. And because he's been working with the different departments for decades now, and he knows them, and he knows what their trends are and what they look for. He knows their ins and outs. He absolutely becomes an ambassador for his clients, where he's navigating through that process for them on their behalf and really shortening the time to get to that end result. So another chat with a superpower is Sabina says she takes her client's vision and transforms it into a viable object. So Sabina is a bookbinder, and she makes beautiful objects. You ought to see absolutely what she does. Her work is handcrafted. It is amazing. One-of-a-kind pieces. So thanks so much for sharing that, Sabina. Anyway, so think about, what is it that you do that separates yourself from everybody else? And where maybe are you an ambassador? So we have one more person checking in as to what they do. Okay, Janice says, I'm a crack editor and proofreader. I'm also a published author and spiritual healer. She is a QuickBooks bookkeeper, and she has been doing this for 30 years. And she has many, many superpowers that she can't even choose from. But she's just been staying poor since the 2009 crash. And it's time for her to move forward. So Janice, you are absolutely in the right place. So happy to have you here. And let's go on to the next part, where we're going from trusted advisor. And another thing that helps to increase your rates is by looking at what are the different programs you can offer. And that has to do with your system of how you help people get a result, because maybe you have more than one type of result that you get. With me, I help clients with creating programs, then I help them package it and price it. I also teach high ticket sales conversations. And that is the overarching view of what I do. And I can bundle all these things together. So for you, what is it you can bundle together that you offer your clients, and putting it together in a really nice, neat package, so that it's not just one-off things that they need to do, and each time they're paying you for another service, but it's really they get the whole suite of services. And you might even have different levels of suites available. The other thing about bundling packages together is that with some parts of what you offer, it doesn't have to be one-on-one where you're trading dollars for hours again, but you might be able to bundle some things together where you're offering it in a done-for-you package, or you're offering it in a group package where you're working with many people at one time, whether in person or virtually, or you can put it together in a package where they can go through a self-learning e-course on their own. You just create it once, and then it's there for them to access that information. All of those are different ways to stop trading dollars for hours and really be able to free you up as well as make more money. So think about, what are those things that you offer, and how can you actually create packages where you're bundling them together, and it increases the investment that someone makes with you, but they're also getting a better result from working with you, because they're getting a couple different things that all complement one another to get that end result. So think about how that would work for you, and how that would start to change your pricing model. And with Ingrid, she is an accounting professional. When I first worked with her, she just moved out of her own home-based office into a brick and mortar office. She had one other person that was working with her. She was working for everybody, doing all different types of books. But Ingrid had a mission. Ingrid wanted to change the industry and how people saw bookkeeping, really elevating the profession to a higher level of professionalism. With that being said, Ingrid and I focused on that niche that she wanted to really tune into, but she also wanted to be able to make a difference and be a leader in her industry. What we did is we developed her niche and created her system. She now works with tour operators that focus on travel and adventure tours. That's her niche. And because she was able to really tune into who her specific client was, she was able to actually cut away 30% of her clients, and we doubled her income. But we also were able to position her as an expert in the industry. She started going to conferences. She got invited onto stages. She became a speaker. She has a weekly, not a weekly podcast, but she has a monthly podcast called Ask a Bookkeeper, where you can ask her anything you want during this podcast and be able to get those answers. She also has a Facebook group called Ask a Bookkeeper as well for people that just want more information about bookkeeping. So those are some of the things that helped to meet those two different interests that she had of becoming an expert in her industry by getting over her fear of public speaking, being on the stage, and being able to see as an expert, plus being able to really carve a way into that niche where she is helping a specific business and really making a difference for them. And it's based upon value-based pricing as opposed to trading dollars for hours, because she is a trusted advisor for them. She isn't just doing the books for them any longer. It's not just about the compliance, it's about how she helps them succeed in their business. So Ben was saying, I work with my hand, turning lumps of clay into magical vessels of stoke. And if you know Ben, you know he is absolutely gifted at that thing that he does. He makes beautiful pottery. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and transition to 3 steps to stop chasing money. The first one is, if you are an entrepreneur, you might not like conflict, and it might hold you back from some of those next steps. As a result, you're playing a smaller game than what you're meant to play. You're holding back, and because of that, there are people who absolutely need what you have to offer, and they can't find you. Or you're not fully showing up to the game because you don't want to be contrarian, even though you believe that the status quo isn't really the best way to go. I just want to let you know that all leaders, including Mother Teresa, got pushback. It's part of the risks of being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, making a difference for your clients, is sometimes what's best for them might not always be the easiest path. And you have to find a way to do it in a way that feels genuine and authentic for you, as well as of integrity. Because if you know there's a better way, and you're not sharing that or getting that message out or educating people about it and letting them know that there's a much better way of doing something than what they've been taught or told, then that's not of service. And I want you to really show up with full integrity, coming from a place of service and making a difference. And sometimes that means you have to take that risk of being outspoken and teaching people about that better way. The other thing you want to look at is stop focusing as much on that thing that you do, because that keeps you average, and it's hard to figure out why someone would work with you than somebody else. People don't really care what you do. They care what you know. And what you want to focus on is the destination. A way of looking at that is, if you were to take a plane from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, there's several different airlines you can go on. However, when you're looking at that, you might be looking at price, you might be looking at loyalty rewards, a couple of different things. I know for me, when I'm looking to go there, it's not so much about which airline I'm going on. It's about, is the timing right? Is it the shortest duration of trip for the best value? And I'm more concerned about the fact that I want to arrive at my destination safely, on time, at the best value, than whether I'm sitting in the 3rd row or the 10th row or any of those other, or whether they do give me snacks or don't give me snacks. So think about, what is that destination that your clients want, the benefits, the outcome. You want to focus on helping them get there. And that's what makes that trusted advisor, is you have those insights to help them get there. You know the way because you have your system. You can articulate it because you know what your system is. And you are able to help them out of that dark place in the cave because you have that flashlight that shines on the way out. They want the destination, and to know that you are the one that can deliver on your promise and give them the outcome that they want. So figure out what are the benefits and that outcome that they're searching for, and that's what you want to focus on. That's where your value is. The other thing you want to get comfortable with is discussing your fees and what it's like to work with you. It's probably the hardest part of the conversation when you're talking with a new client, because you love the relationship building part, you're a nurturer, and talking about your fees and what it's like to work with you feels a little bit more transactional. When that happens, where it feels transactional, is because you make it about you and you're shifting the focus away from them. What you want to do is to be able to practice this so it's coming from a place of service where it's still about them, and recognizing that you want to help them as a trusted advisor to make the best decision possible on how to be able to solve a need. And sometimes that is about them making that commitment to work with you and move forward because you can help them be able to achieve that result. Get comfortable, practice, whether it's in front of a mirror, with recording yourself on a digital voice recorder, doing this with someone you trust and practicing with them role playing. The more you get comfortable talking about your services and the investment it is to work with you, then the more you're going to be able to follow through the whole enrolling conversation, the consultation, from beginning to end, where they sign on and they are excited to work with you. I will let you know when you have the ideal client, it's a great fit. You absolutely are the one that can help them solve that problem. They are excited to make that investment with you because they know that finally they'll be moving forward and they're not going to be stuck any longer. So get comfortable, because it comes from a place of service. And as a trusted advisor, it's all about them. It's not about you. And the last part of it is you have to be comfortable taking money and asking for the money, because if you haven't exchanged money for your service, then they're not a client. They can back out, they can overthink it, they can change their mind at any time. But once there's an exchange of money for service, then they're enrolled, they are fully good to go. So as a trusted advisor, coming from a place of helping the client solve their need, it's important to get comfortable asking for the money and helping them make that investment, because when they're hiring you for a service, they're not necessarily hiring you, they're investing themselves, their well-being, their business, whether you do a B2B type of service, business to business, or whether you do a softer service like health or wellness. So by making that investment and paying for the service, it's an exchange of energy. This way they're not indebted to you, and it frees them up to be able to fully jump in and get the full benefit of what you have to offer. And a lot of times asking for money feels very, very uncomfortable, but it really allows them to fully jump in and close that loop where they don't have to think about it anymore and wonder whether they'll be able to get that solution or not. So the other thing that happens if you don't ask for the money is you went through this great consultation where you asked great questions, they saw the benefit, they're even more aware of why they need to do something about it. And because you didn't close the sale, get them enrolled into working with you, you buttered them up for the next person that they're going to have a consultation with that is actually going to ask for the money and close the sale. So instead of doing all the work where somebody else benefits, do all the work, make the offer, know it's coming from a place of service as opposed to you taking. It's a give on your end, you're helping them solve a need. And then that way they're all in, they're excited, and you both are good to go. So those are some of the ways to be able to increase your income and get paid more than what you're currently getting paid. With Brian Case, Brian is totally a giver. He is one of the most generous men that I know. He says yes to pretty much everything. And by being that person that says yes to everything, sometimes it gets him in trouble because he's saying yes to things that aren't going to advance his business or not really something that's aligned with what his gifts are. And what we did is we focused on who his ideal client is, where he ought to be spending more time, and where there's things on his calendar that really aren't helping advance his business, or they're not necessarily hard projects, but he just didn't know how to say no and get out of it. And really tuning into what was the most effective use of his time. What Brian and I realized is the most effective use of his time is that he needs to be out of the office. When he is out of the office and he's connecting with people, whether it's clients or referral sources or joint venture partners, associates, he becomes the rainmaker because he's such a generous man, and he really, really comes from a place of wanting to make a difference for people. And by being the rainmaker, he brings in the business, and then he can pass the tactical steps onto his team to do that part of the work for him. Because of that, he was able to expand his team, and we live in a small community of about 150,000 people or so in our entire county. But with him being highly focused on what was effective and getting some of those other things off of his plate and learning how to say no when he really didn't, when it wasn't his best purpose to move forward, he was able to rise up to one of the top 1% of loan originators in the country. And now he's actually ranked at number 6 currently. So it's not always about the fact that you have to live in a large metropolitan area like New York or Los Angeles or Seattle to make a big difference and really rise up to the top of your industry. It's knowing about what differentiates you, knowing exactly how you serve your client, coming from that place of being a service-oriented entrepreneur. You're a servant at heart. You want to make a difference. You deeply care about your clients. And focusing on where your superpower is. By doing those things and knowing the value that you have to offer, absolutely is a way to have you rise up to the top and be able to shift not just the impact that you're making for your clients, but it impacts your business. You can reinvest more in your business. It impacts your personal life, where you can increase the quality of life. You don't have to work as hard. And it's a win-win-win on so many different levels. So what we covered is 5 steps to get paid what you're worth, how to double your rates, and 3 tips to stop chasing money. Now, if you feel that what I spoke about resonated with you, and you are absolutely ready to be able to double your income working half the time for yourself and your business, knowing that it's going to make a difference for you, for your clients, as well as in your personal life, then I put aside some time to be able to talk further on that, what that would look like. And to go to businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk, fill out the questionnaire, and I'll go ahead and email you a time to be able to talk further. So if you know that you're ready to invest in yourself, you invest time, sometimes you invest money, you invest energy, it's really just your time to make that difference, then absolutely move forward. This is a time to really take advantage of an opportunity that's been handed to you and see what it is that you want for yourself in the coming year, where your business is right now, what some of the obstacles are, as well as what some of the opportunities are. You walk away re-energized, you have insights, and you are good to move forward. So I would love for you to go to businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk, fill out the questionnaire. Let's go ahead and set up a time to talk further, and absolutely appreciate you taking the time to be here, showing up. Showing up is really what separates you from everybody else. And let's make a bigger difference, a bigger impact in you as well as your business. Take care. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much.